Hello and welcome back to Hollowponds Solo Sagas. So we are going to start our 9th session for the Electric State. It's been quite a journey. We haven't travelled that far up to San Francisco just yet. We ended our last session. I decided we were probably around the Cambria Harmony area up the west coast, south of these mountains and Ragged Point, where a tragic event occurred and Don lost his life. He sacrificed himself for the others. He sacrificed himself successfully saving Molly and securing Molly, and then trying to go to Kurt's aid. Don died. And so this session we will deal with the ramifications of that, and probably as if we were perceiving and we were trying to create, we'll run the little logo thing there at the moment. If we were trying to create a TV series of the Electric State, and I think a lot of the games, particularly the Free League games, not so much Forbidden Lands, but definitely The Walking Dead, even Twilight 2000 really, and Electric State very much seem to be as though you're putting together your own TV series with your group or as a solo player. This would be our semi-montage episode before our finale. So I think we'll have next episode, unless something goes awry during this episode, because of course I haven't recorded yet, because this is how I work. This is me, raw and unscripted, unfiltered. We will do a resolve Don somehow. We turned up an ace of clubs during last session that I only caught in the edit, that I've written here, deal with the ace of clubs. We need to look up what that is on the special stuff. Deal with that. Deal with Kurt, who had his breakdown, because we don't know how that works, so we'll deal with that. We'll deal with burying Don, and then, because I would assume, based on the Breakdown Society, that contacting authorities to deal with this may not be present. Although it's not apocalypse and a post-apocalyptic, it's an apocalypse. So it's not post-apocalyptic, it is during the apocalypse. It's a slow, drawn out, dragged out apocalypse. So there might not be the services to actually contact to get to deal with this situation. I mean, if there were, there wouldn't be a drone growth wandering around attacking us in the first place. So we'll deal with that, and then we'll wind up at the end and move into the end of the series at the next session. So first off, we're going to have a look at that ace of clubs and see what... Oh, actually, no. First off, we'll say thank you very much if you're a subscriber for returning. It's very much appreciated. The love for the Electric State game has been very much appreciated. It is a shame that the solo rules feel so thin and not quite complete, because the game itself and the detail and the world building is fantastic. It's brilliant. It's very evocative. You can really feel it. I think as a group game, this would be awesome. As a solo game, it's pretty good, but it's just a bit short run, and it feels a bit, you have to drag the story out. So thank you very much for, sorry, segued, see, no script. Thank you very much for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, do consider subscribing. You just hit the button, it helps, it validates my existence, and it then lets the numbers bump up. So the algorithm sees this as being more popular, pushes it out to more people, and my validation is even more justified. You know, I can then exist as a human being because I'm validated. If you would like to support me, as the Adventurers Guild does, there are a bunch of awesome people who have decided to support me with their hard-earned finances, and I very much appreciate everything they do. It's an awesome group of people. If you'd like to join us, there are some videos that I put up specifically for the members. The Walking Dead, I've got my schedule to begin recording this week, and that will start going up in the new year, because this is the new year for you, but it's not for me yet. And that's about it really. I've now just wasted loads of your time. I do apologise. Maybe I should script it. So, the Electric State, Kurt, breakdown, ace of clubs first. So first off, let's deal with this ace of clubs, and then we can see what we need to sort of write into our story for this sort of segue cutscene type episode, as we do a montage drive up the coast to San Francisco and find out how we end this heartwarming story. Ace of Clubs is a stop countdown event. Well, I think that Ace of Clubs is covered by that drone growth attacking us, and then we had a Diamonds Traveller event. Oh yeah, we had that. Ace of Clubs, I think that is quite covered by the drone growth coming up and killing Don. The attack of the drone growth, the damage that did Kurt, the damage that did to Don, and the subsequent damage that is going to do to Molly as she deals with the loss of Don. Even though she's quite emotionally mature, that's still quite a big thing for her to deal with as a 17-year-old. I think we'll count that Ace of Clubs as that. We have very few of the cards left, which I have no idea. I haven't even looked at the bottom of these. I've been very good to pull from. So that is the Ace of Clubs dealt with. Next, so I'll tick that off my to deal with list. Next, so this is solo advice. At the end of a session, write yourself some notes of things that you want to deal with next session, otherwise you will forget. Maybe you've got an eidetic memory and you won't forget, but mostly I would forget. So just do yourself like a little checklist of, so I've got Kurt's breakdown, bury Don, where this happened, which I've worked out, harmony, deal with Ace of Clubs. So, breakdowns. When you reach zero hope, which is what Kurt has done, you have reached a point where your brain can't take it anymore, and Kurt is on his knees, sobbing his eyes out over Don's body as Molly drops to her knees. So this is how our episode would begin. We would cut to Kurt in the first instance, his leather jacket covered in dirt and dust. The rain is still raining, but we can clearly see from his mud splattered face that the tears are pouring down his eyes. His eyes have gone red. He's still holding in his hands the railgun that he used to finish the drone growth. The heat coming off of it is causing steam from as the rain hits it, and that steam is then semi-floating in the air around him as he kneels down in front of Don's body, having no contact with Don's body, about a foot away from it. As Don lays there charred, sizzling as the rain hits, we just see the back of his charred head. He had that flak jacket that he'd put on, that is now sizzled and holed and pockmarked and burnt, and we can see that all of his clothing is singed and it's burnt, as Molly is shaking his back and also sobbing and screaming. This is where we will then focus on Kurt's face, camera focus on Kurt's face, as we tell the actor, oh, if we roll 11 to 36, the trauma is none. As we would tell the actor, you are now breaking down, and Kurt, as our character, breaks down. So what we need to do, so basically Kurt can only recover by being rallied by someone else. So at some point, Molly is going to have to start having a conversation with Kurt to get Kurt up and get Kurt moving, to get Kurt to basically help her deal with Don and sort out Don. So possibly, I don't know, what is it? It's 97. Yes. By the late 1990s, there were, of course, mobile phones. I just checked GPT. Of course, it was the 3310, the snake phone. So the 3310 was around. So one of them might have a mobile phone. So we will do a roll to see if they can connect with something, or if they might have no signal whatsoever because of the drone growth in the area. So Molly is trying to connect to someone. I mean, as a last result, they can try and go into the electric state to connect to someone to try and get help with Don, but they're not going to get anyone either for that. So we will then work out what Kurt's breakdown is. So to work out Kurt's mental trauma, we roll a D66 on the mental trauma table. We get 51, depressed. You cannot be rallied by another person when you have a breakdown. So he is depressed, which means he cannot be rallied by someone else, which means I'm going to have to read, how does he rally himself? Right, okay, that's cool. So what it means is that nobody can rally Kurt anymore. Kurt is now sinking into depression. After a shift, we can allow Kurt to rally himself to get 1 point. We can also allow for any tension retrieval to happen between them. which is between him and Molly, and that will cause recovery of hope as well. But nobody can rally Kurt now, not unless it is a medical professional with the correct training. Let me just check on the talents. So no, they're missing a talent for a therapist to aid in the recovery of somebody who has suffered a breakdown. There is no talent that I can see. If someone sees one that I just missed in that brief read, do put it down there. But I can see no talent. There's another thing missing from the electric state. We have mental trauma, we have hope, we have the ability to have a breakdown. We have no talents that anyone can have to be a therapist or a psychoanalyst, and nothing like that I can see. Actually, I didn't look up psychoanalyst. Let me check that one. No, we've got several talents, 3 talents that I can see for fixing someone who has a physical injury, but no talents there for fixing someone who has a psychological injury. We have a nice little box here about strongly recommending discussing mental trauma in the group before using these rules, but nothing actually in the book to actually take that mental trauma and a breakdown of some kind of like this, or lack of hope, loss of hope, is a real thing, and there are people who are medically trained and skilled to actually help those people recover from that state, and thus it being a real state and a real illness, not just a thing. So that's quite disappointing, and it is missing clearly. So basically what Kurt needs is some therapy, and probably over a short period of time maybe some additional help, but long term he just needs therapy. Well, I say just needs, which minimises it, which isn't a true thing, so I shouldn't have used the words just needs, but he needs therapy and care, but of course he can't get that. So that's Kurt. Kurt is on his haunches and he's feeling a lack of hope. So Kurt is thinking this was pointless. He's possibly blaming himself for this because he was the one who organised this trip. He's seeing that if it wasn't for him, that Don may still be alive, and he is blaming himself. Thus, he's just sinking into a state of depression. YouTube did a study on what people watching YouTube really like, and it's to be cheered up and made happy. I don't know if I'm doing that at the moment, so I do apologise. I do sort of, though I am, I've done comedy. I did in 2022. I challenged myself to do stand-up comedy in 2022, and I performed 6 times around Sydney. And then I realised it was a young man's game, young person's game, and I really didn't fit in the scene very well. Also, I wasn't willing to sort of suck up to promoters to get spots, and so I decided against it. And so midway, end of 2022, I stopped going to open mic nights. So I can actually be amusing, but for some reason doing these, I lean towards the depressing, sad stories. So anyway, back to the electric state. We now have Molly. Molly is attempting to use her phone, her 3310, to connect. So first off, let's turn a card. We'll use a tilt and we'll see if she can actually connect. She is going to need some serious luck to get this phone to A, connect, and then we're going to then secondarily, if someone answers the phone, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to answer the phone to start off with. That is very much not in line with this, but they might do, you never know. Okay, so the phone connects because we've got hearts, which is good. So the phone actually connects and she actually gets through to she's a ringtone, and then she's able to ring an emergency line. Okay, that is, so the ace, it's the ace of spades, isn't it? It's Lemmy, it's the ace of spades. So the ace of spades is extremely bad for the traveller. So we'll look up what the ace of spades is on the special events, but the ace of spades turnover means that Molly rings, and it's basically, she just keeps ringing, it keeps connecting, and it's a busy message. I'm terribly sorry, but the emergency services are overloaded at the moment and we cannot leave a call. Please leave a message and somebody will get back to you as soon as possible. And it's just that over and over again. Basically, there is nobody there to answer her call. There is either so many calls that they can't deal with it, or so few people that there's no one there to answer her call. And she keeps trying and keeps trying, and we are going to give Molly, Molly is going to, what hope level is Molly on? Is Molly on 1 hope? Oh God, if Molly's on 1 hope, she might be on 1 hope. We're going to give Molly, Molly does have tension with Don of 1. So we are going to allow this scene. So she's just going to drop her phone and she is going to spend this scene talking to Don, who's dead of course, explaining. So what was her thing? Oh, got dragged away. Don dragged her away. All right. So the tension I've got written down here is when Don dragged her away. Don dragged her away at the Air Force Base when they were trying to convince the doctor to go. Don dragged her away and said they had to leave and she didn't want to leave, which created this tension. So we are going to have her talking to Don and explaining how she realizes that Don saved her life by putting her in the tank, and she is thanking Don and apologizing that nobody's answering the phone and nobody's coming to help. So she's doing that as Kurt is having his breakdown, and then we'll look at what the Ace of Spades is. So she is going to relieve that, and we're going to put Molly onto 2 hope, and I'll write it clearly so I don't get confused with all crossed out numbers. That must have been due to the fight and her failing rolls. So that's that. I might create a 1 tension. Oh, not yet, because Kurt's not. She probably hasn't realised that Kurt isn't very compos mentis yet, because she's too busy wrapped up. So we've got. Okay, so as we were talking about Molly at this point in time, we've got Spades, which is the personal threat countdown event. Her personal threat is her dad is going to come and get her. So what will be the first thing? I mean, what would cause tension is if, I mean, this would then work as a TV series as well. So what we've basically got, we have the scene where we have Kurt on his knees, who's sobbing. We've had a few minutes, you know, we've caused a time dilation drag in the view. So the viewers know time has passed, but we've not spent too much time that we might drag out that TV show. She's repetitively trying to call. She then drops her phone to the floor. So it's on the floor in the mud and the rain. She's then talking to Don and explains what's going on to Don, which is then alleviates the tension. And at that moment, the phone rings. Kurt doesn't look that aware of the ring because he's still wrapped up in his own world. But Molly is going to look jerked and then pick up the phone and say, "Oh, thank you for getting back to me. It's my friend Don." As her father is going to start shouting down the phone at her, shouting where she is, what she's doing. She's been gone for days and he's been trying to get in touch with her. Why has her phone been off? Which is where we realise that she turned her phone on to be able to make the phone call. Now, she is going to make an empathy roll, which she's got good at, in an attempt to deal with this mental shock of dealing with it. If she gets 1 hit, she is going to fob him off and put the phone down. If she gets 2 hits, we'll allow her to relieve another point of tension, another point of hope in explaining to him. She will explain in tears what has happened and where they are. He will then have to come and get her, which gives them a chance to then continue moving on, and then the clock keeps ticking, her personal threat. If she gets no hits, she is faltering and worried, and she will tell him where she is, and there's a chance that they're going to be caught somewhere between now and San Francisco. She can't afford to re-roll this. Push that one down. We get 1 hit. Okay, so that 1 hit. Oh, what's that from? That shouldn't be there. It's a 5, so it doesn't make any difference. Because she's got 6. So that 6 means that she says to him that it was time for her to move on, that she's very sorry he's disappointed. She is on the way to San Francisco. They've had something bad has happened to her friend Don and she needs to deal with it. She's really sorry, Dad, but I will tell you when I can talk to you next. I will call you within the next couple of days, I promise you. But don't worry, I'm okay for now, and I'll let you know if things get worse. But she's clearly been crying. Her voice is clearly shaky. And at that point, we will see that she then, what was it? It was a button in the top right-hand corner, wasn't it? That she will then turn the phone off and put the phone back into her jacket pocket. That will then, we're not going to let her get 1 point of hope for that. So that then resolves that. That will then be, we'll call that the shift, which means that we're now in probably, that was night shift last time, wasn't it? Wasn't it over the night last time? Because they drove overnight. So this would be either the morning or the day. So during the morning, so the sun started to come up. We're in the morning. She is then going to turn to Kurt and say to Kurt that they're going to have to deal with Don's body. She can't get through to the emergency services. Is Kurt going to think Kurt is going to have to get... So Kurt has a wits of 5. Kurt might think of using the neuroscape there to connect and find some services, but he's going to need 2 hits to do that, and he doesn't even get 1 hit. So his brain is too fogged up with the situation that's going on, and he doesn't really, he's just answering in sort of semi-words, and she's saying, but Kurt, I need your help. I need you to help me. So this is going to create, so Kurt is going to have a tension with Molly, because Kurt just wants to be left alone. Kurt just wants to be left alone, and Molly is going to have a tension with Kurt because she needs help. Right, so Kurt has still got, so this was a shift, which means that Kurt can get 1 hope back at the end of that shift from being, after being broken down for the shift. Basically, we've seen as she's tried to talk to Don, we've seen her talking on the phone, and like Kurt has got up off his knees and just sat on the chair. Rocket is up on his hind legs. We can see Rocket on with his forelegs on Kurt's shoulder, trying to nuzzle Kurt's ear and trying to get, maybe something like that could help Kurt. Trying to get Kurt to come back, and that is what then got Kurt his 1 hit point back. Was Rocket doing that? Kurt's also down to 2, his hope back. Kurt's down to 2 hit points, so that's going to be to deal with as well. But we can't really get that dealt with at the moment. So now we have Don. Don needs to be dealt with. He's still laying there in the rain. The rain has, let's see, has the rain eased off? Has the rain eased off? Yes, and we've got another face card. Have all the face cards been here? Diamonds, conversation. All right, so this is where, so the rain has eased off because it's a face card red, and the sun has come out. Molly is going to approach Don. Molly's going to approach Kurt and have a conversation with Kurt, possibly about what they need to do next, which we turn to 219, and we've got conversations. We roll a d6 on the conversation table. 6, the stops background. All right, so we've got the stops background. They will have a conversation. So let's read this bit first. All right, so I read the bit on conversations. So the conversations is basically talking about, as a solo player, it's very hard to try and replicate a conversation that you'd actually have between 2 people at the table. And so this is a way of, it's a brief couple of paragraphs in a way of how to mimic that conversation structure. So it's saying maybe you could have, if a conversation comes up, the conversation could be between 2 of the characters, between an NPC and the character. But this actually is just conversation. And so we're having a conversation that would basically encourage us to think about the conversations. It's a character-driven, narrative-driven game. So it's encouraging the solo player to think about the characters and the narrative rather than just the action. So although we rolled the d6 to find the conversation subject as the stops background, I think we naturally have a conversation that was going to occur anyway between Molly and Kurt, which is, what are they going to do with Don? Kurt is not going to want to go into the neuroscape because Kurt's hope is already low, and Kurt knows that the last time he went in it worked badly, and he's feeling bad about himself anyway, and he doesn't want to go into the neuroscape. His sister died in the neuroscape, as we've got down here, so he wants to avoid doing that. He also wants Molly just to leave him alone to wallow, but he knows Molly's here, so there's not much that they can do about that. Molly wants help from Kurt and wants to know what to do next. So I think we're going to give Molly a roll, a witch roll, to try and work out. So I would think bury Kurt. I even wrote in my notes, bury Kurt. But I need one of these 2 to come up with that idea. Otherwise, I don't know. The next thing they've got is put him in the boot, which just seems horrible. No, her brain is fogged. She doesn't know what to do. she doesn't think of what to do. They're just going to bury her. I don't know, like, of course, like, I wanted them to come up with the idea, but instead, I don't know what else they would do. So the only other thing is we'll say they can't find, okay, so what we're going to say is they can't find anything. All right, okay, they can't find any way to dig a hole. So what we've got is we've got them going around, they're desperately looking for something to dig. Well, Molly is, Kurt's not helping. Molly can't find anything to dig a hole with. She then finds a few things and she's trying to dig into the soil. The soil's too tightly packed. She can't dig, even though it's been raining. Maybe it's concrete, maybe there's concrete and tarmac, and she can't find any way to dig. And then she's going to look across to where the tank was, or is, and she is then going to start dragging Don's body over. At all points in time, we don't see Don's face. We just see the back of Don as she's dragging him over. She's crying. We're going to give her... Let's give her an empathy roll. Can she deal with the stress of this? Yes. So she's dealing with the stress of this. Well, she's got 3 hits. She is talking to Don, drags him over, puts him into the tank, closes the tank door. She is going to... is she religious? I don't know. The natural inclination is because of films and things. Maybe she would do that because of films, that she will put a cross on it, or she'll mark the tank. Don, so she can have someone come and she can come back at some point. She knows that they need to move on. They can't stay here, particularly because they got the call from her father as well. So then she's going to go over to Kurt and say to Kurt, my dad called. I can't find any way to deal with Don and I can't contact anyone. We need to move on. We can't stay here. And Kurt's just going to grunt and not really say much. And then Kurt will just get into the car. Rocket will jump onto Kurt's lap and start licking around Kurt's face. Molly will get into the driver's seat, and without talking to each other, they'll start up the car and they'll move off. And they'll begin travelling, show the map please, Future Pete, back up the coast. Now we'll roll a couple of minor encounters as they move up, and then we will close as they come to this. They see a sign saying, welcome. I'll try and see if I can find one and put it up at the end of the episode, and then we'll do it at the start of the next episode. Welcome to San Francisco, and then we'll find out what happens at San Francisco with these last few cards next session. That'd be cool if we get through the whole of this deck in one of these games without having shuffling. That's pretty cool. They're traveling up the coast. They're going through the mountains. Let's do one encounter. We'll do one encounter through the mountains. I'll show you on here, but hopefully Future Pete will show you very closely on the map. We'll do one encounter along here through the mountains, and we'll say they'll have another encounter around near Scotts Valley, and then they're coming up, and then they're into San Francisco, Memorial City. So first, what do we have? Do we pull a card? Minor encounters, yes, we pull a card. It's not dice, it's cards. So our first minor encounter as we come up is a 6 of diamonds. Roadside attraction. The highways of America are rife with kitschy, looming, sometimes outright bizarre roadside attractions. From giant cows to the world's biggest ball of twine, roadside attractions were popular stops before the country went sideways. All right, we are going to have, let's do another card. So if it's a red card, it's still being functional. And we're going to give them a chance to have some rest, and they can have like a coffee and some pie and just sit staring at each other for a couple of hours and then move off again. If it's a black, it's all closed up. It's maybe even been set fire to, and it's really quite depressing. It's a red, or a red face card. All right, so what have we got? We've got diamonds, conversation. So we've got face card, diamonds, conversation. So we are going to allow them both to alleviate one pot of hope, as they are going to come to this giant, I can only think of banana because there's the big banana up near Coffs Harbour. There's a giant banana by the side of the road with a little cafe in it, and there's a woman in her very sprightly looking, very attractive, in her 50s, because 50s are brilliant. Looking at woman there who serves them, who welcomes them in, spends a lot of time with them, continually talking to them. They're both quite quiet, they're rain soaked, they're splattered with mud, They're covered in scratches, particularly Molly is quite, oh, Kurt as well. Kurt is quite, oh, Molly's not injured. Kurt's covered in cuts and scratches and bruises. He's also got one bliss. She is being very attentive to them, completely oblivious to the way that they're dressed and looking. He's serving them coffee and pie, and they spend some time there and they start talking about what's going on. And Don and Kurt is saying all he needs to do is just get up into San Francisco and perform. And Molly has got out that picture of the Golden Gate Bridge that we said that she really wants to see the Golden Gate Bridge is her goal. And she's going to say that if she can do that, and they're going to say that they really need to contact someone and tell them about Don. But you know, it's a TV program, we move on. And we will have that scene at that stop as they are moving on, about to move on. So then that's around the Big Sur, and then we will move up and around Monterey Bay. There might be some surfing somewhere around here, and we'll have some shots of them surfing, and then we'll have some sort of, you know, fade back to all of them sitting in the car with Don and laughing and listening to music. This is bound to have happened in the if it was a TV program, it's bound to happen. As they come around, and then around Scotts Valley, we will have them have another minor encounter. So this is all from page 211, which is minor encounters in starting your journey in the solo guide. So this is a 9 of clubs. All right, cult sacrifice. Cults leave sacrifices on the roads of America, from an animal head on a spike to a crucifix made of old TVs. You're bound to see something odd left by a cult. All right. Something up near Golden. Have we got a list of verbs? I don't remember there being one for this, which is also a bit of an omission in not having a verb list for a solo game. Is a bit of an omission. You just need a table, 1 or 2 tables of verbs or adjectives. Can really help trigger some thoughts, particularly if they are area, setting specific. Nope. All right. I like the TV idea. Sacrifice. We don't want it to be people. What have we got? San Francisco. Kind of cars. So we have some cars. We'll have a stack of. Oh, we'll have cars made like. How about a Stonehenge of cars? Stonehenge of cars. They pull up to a Stonehenge of cars. What was it? It was a black card, so it's going to be very ominous. Maybe, all right, maybe they pull up to a Stonehenge of cars. It's lit with fairy lights, which are all still linking, and they're blinking, and they're summer, or not fairy lights, actual light bulbs on chains. It begins to get a bit overcast because then the effect of the light is a bit more impressive. But they can see that some of the bulbs are broken, and as they get up close to it, they can see that there are animal skulls scattered around inside the Stonehenge of cars. There is fresh looking blood. Kurt is going to continue looking around. Kurt is still, though he's now up to 2 hope, which is 3 away from his max. He is still depressed and cannot be rallied until he's had therapy. And so he is going to be looking around. Molly is going to take him by the shoulder and sort of like shake her head. Let's make her make an empathy roll to see if she can clock on that this isn't a nice place. No, she doesn't. Let's give Kurt a go as well, and then we'll switch roles, and we'll give this a primary to Kurt if Kurt gets a hit. Yeah, Kurt gets a hit. All right, so instead we've got Molly's curious, and Molly is going up, so we've just switched it. Molly is curious, so Molly's going up to look because she's quite curious about what this is, and she's leaning in as Kurt's going to put his hand on his shoulder and sort of shake his head as he backs up away from it. As it's just got, we are sort of given a strange, the music changes. That would how they'd signify a strange vibe, wouldn't they? So the music changes to be a bit more violin-y-esque and weird and disjointed. And Kurt is going to take Molly by the shoulder and sort of move her back towards the vehicle, and they're going to move back to, how many cards we've got 4 cards left in the stack, and he's going to move Molly back a bit towards the car, and they will get back into the car and set off again. and that's where we will probably end that one with them approaching San Francisco. We'll see via Half Moon Bay. Half Moon Bay sounds more realistic than Halt, doesn't it? Half Moon Bay, circling up towards San Francisco, and we will see the big on the road above the highway, San Francisco X miles away, and we will close there as Molly turns to Kurt and says, I think we're nearly there. And that's where we'll end episode 9. Thank you very much for being a subscriber if you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It's almost off pat now after a year and a half of doing this. If you would like to support me, you could also join the Adventurers Guild. Thank you very much to all members of the Adventurers Guild. I very much appreciate your support. And we will leave Kurt and Molly there. We have, as I've just seen it as a done, I did the table for Civil War battles. If you would like to join the newsletter, which I'll put up there, I'll attach that with some cyberpunk tables as well. I'll do that, attach that today. I haven't done that yet. And that's it really. Thank you very much indeed. I shall see you next week for the last of the Electric State, and then we can work out what we're going to do after that. See ya.